Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Tonight, we are here for the first time ever in league history on the Pocono Raceway Oval down in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. And I'll tell you what, tonight is going to be one heck of a race. Tonight, we will be crowning a champion here in season number 12, and it is still an incredibly close three-way battle between Garrett Streets, Brandon Feeney, and Brian Sabelski, all with 2 wins to their name here tonight. Streets currently leading the championship over Feeney by just 11 points. Then it's going to be 20 points on back to Brian Sabelski. And mind you, this is one of our 4 double points races, so tonight's race will be paying out 60 points to the race winner. It still could be any one of these 3 drivers taking home the win here tonight. And Sabelski, I don't want to jinx him, but he could potentially have a little bit of an edge because he actually took home a win on the road course here at Pocono Raceway all the way back in 2018 in the Volkswagen Jetta TDI. And I'll tell you what, I mean, it's been 5 years since he took home that win, but tonight could be the night where he takes home his second win at the Pocono Raceway. That said, drivers are starting to make their way down onto the starting grid, so how about we go take a look at how things will be shaking out here tonight. Starting out on the pole of things here this evening, the rookie driver that took home the win against all of those veterans last Monday, excuse me. That's the Mountain Dew Code Red entry of Mr. Andy Felterbush Jr. Starting his outside in the do-it-yourself double zero, Garrett Hess, another driver with 2 wins to his name, but unfortunately only able to compete part-time here in the league. Currently 13th in the championship standings here tonight. A championship most certainly is not on the cards for him, but another race win is still a possibility. Starting back in position number 3 in the number 52, that's going to be Lucas Lyons in the SM Racing Cofield entry, making his first ever start in the league in any of its series. Starting back in position number 4, that's going to be the first of the champion hopes to be's. That's going to be Mr. Garrett Streets in the SM Racing number 15. Starting off back in position number 5, one of the drivers out of Canada, that's going to be the 42 Mountain Dew entry of Michael Sparks. Starting back in position number 6, the other Canadian driver, that's going to be the Beefy Motorsports Liqui Moly 38 of Brandon Feeney, our other championship contender here. Finally back in 7th, showing up with about 5 minutes left in qualifying, managing to make it to the field just in time. That's going to be our other championship contender, 4-time champion Mr. Brian Sabelski in the Nihon Tiger 85. 8th place going to go back to the CZ Robotics number 24 of Corey Logan, followed by the other half of the SM Racing Products team. That's going to be the 74 of Jeremy Morrow. Back in 10th place, that's going to be league admin Mr. Jason Gardner himself. 4th place in the championship standings right now, but unfortunately a little bit too far out to contend for the title here tonight. And finally, rounding out the field once again in that unsponsored machine, that's going to be the 78 of Mr. Derek Murphy, rounding out this 11-car field here this evening. Now, I'll tell you what, we've got a bit of a long race here in the books. Pocono Raceway, 2.5 miles in length, currently features the longest straightaway in North American oval racing. And we're going to be competing for 60 laps here, which is the same distance that the real-life ARCA Menards Racing Series runs. That's why it's going to be a double points race to crown a champion here tonight. It's going to be a bit of a long one, but the iRacing.com pace car is off, so we're going to get this thing rolling. And tonight, we crown a champion. Green flag up in the air here in Long Pond, Pennsylvania. Side by side all throughout the field. This is most certainly a draft track if we have ever seen one. But it's going to be quite a bit of a different challenge from Talladega as Garrett Hess drifts way up the speedway. All 3 of the straightaways are different lengths. All 3 of the corners are different bankings. You cannot do the same thing twice here at the Pocono Raceway. Every part of this track is going to be a different challenge for these drivers. But right now, it looks like last week's winner of Mr. Andy Felterbush Jr. in the Code Red Mountain Dew entry is off to an early lead. The rest of the field is starting to single file out slowly but surely. Drafting is going to be the name of the game here tonight. Staying in that draft and being a little bit conservative with your fuel. We are in for the long haul here this evening. Probably will have multiple pit stops here tonight just for fuel. Currently side by side for two championship contenders here. That's Garrett Streets and Brandon Brandon Feeney, but Brian Sabelski is going to guide it down low. Why not go 3 wide for our 3 championship contenders here on lap number 2? Feeney is going to be the driver with the advantage in this battle here. Currently all battling for the 4th position, so none of our 3 championship contenders are even inside the top 3 of the event right now, but I'll tell you what, these 3 are going to be the drivers that we need to keep our eyes on. These 3, more than anyone else, it's going to be one heck of a battle. Of course, Sabelski here going for championship number 5. Feeney and Streets both looking for their first championships here in the ASRC Oval Series. A lot is on the line for all of these drivers, because everyone else here in the field still having the opportunity to take home a race win, and that is still a big deal for all of them, especially considering a lot of the drivers here in this field don't have a win in the ASRC Oval Series. So all of them just as much running for the opportunity to etch their name in the record books of this league. Little bit of a slide there from Sabelski up in front of Garrett Streets. These 3 drivers still battling it out for the 4th position on back. Andy Felterbrush off to a decent lead. Basically him, Lyons, and Hess have all broken away from the rest of the field just by a little bit. And of course last weekend as well, there was a lot of drama as a massive pileup coming to the checkered flag out of turn 4 on a short track. Streets and Feeney both walked away with top 5 finishes, but Brian Zabelski, who was in the top 3 at the time of that incident, ended up bringing it home 9th. So Sabelski, more than anyone, really has a lot on the line in tonight's event just by virtue of the fact that he is a little bit further back than he should have been in the point standings with that last lap incident. And I'll tell you what, we might have trouble actually back at the tail end of the field. Word from the truck was that there was trouble for Corey Logan. It looks like they're doing all right. But we got call from the truck that there was an incident. Let's take a real quick look back and see what that was for with the CZ Robotics 24 entry. Sure enough, a little bit loose off the corner, a little bit in the grass. No big deal there. We're keeping it rolling, but Corey Logan does look like they have lost the draft in that 24 machine. They're pretty much going to be a sitting duck for the rest of tonight's event unless they get lucky with the pit cycles or get lucky with a caution flag coming out. Further up at the front of the field, nose to tail for Lyons and Hess. I say that, Hess, massive drift up onto the high line of the speedway. That's going to allow Sabelski to make a little bit of ground back, but that's not saying a whole lot because it's still 1.8 seconds between 3rd and 4th right now. Our top 3 drivers completely pulling away from the rest of the field here. Still battling it out as well for our 3 championship contenders further back in the field. Side by side for Streets and Feeney. Sabelski just all along for the ride up in front of them. Hoping neither one of them tries to make anything too daring of a move, as there's a little bit of contact between Feeney and Streets there. Coming into tonight's event, a little bit of different opinions from these drivers. Of course, Sabelski has been having a bit of a rough season, still running really well. Of course, competing for a championship here, but a little bit unhappy with how he's been ran by some of the other drivers coming into this season. And of course, an entirely different perspective further back, Mr. Brandon Feeney shows up to this league immediately after a different league. So he runs 2 races back-to-back, double duty every Monday night. And he says he's just here to have fun. Of course, this is his 2nd season here in ASRC. And he pretty much said he has nothing to lose here. So he's just here to run, and whatever happens, happens. And I'll tell you what, that could potentially make him dangerous. And of course, for the back, Garrett Streets, the SM Racing Product driver, one half of the SM Racing Products team, who of course are the title sponsor of the ASRC Oval Series and have been for close to a year now, putting together button boxes and other sim racing gear. Running in ASRC for a long time now. He's been a long time competitor here in the ASRC Oval Series, but this is by far the closest that he has ever come to being a champion. Of course, only 7 laps in the books out of 60. We still have a long race left to go here this evening, and a whole lot of what-ifs for these various drivers. With this battle on the field, still the battle between the two of them. Let's see if we can actually take a moment to ride on board with Garrett Streets, get an onboard view with what all these drivers are seeing down here on the speedway. Of course, in these ARCA cars, pretty much flat putting it down the straightaways. A little bit less powered than any of the machines run in the NASCAR various national series that they have going on. They're still managing to reach about 180 down the straightaway going down into turn number 1. So far, so good for all of these drivers. Streets trying to figure out a way around that Lipomali 38, the driver out of Canada. That said, he's getting a bit of a run down his backstretch. Is he going to go for the move? Looks like he's going to try it. He is going to try it side by side with Brandon Feeney and head down into turn number 2. Not quite able to clear him. Of course, turn 2, one of the flatter corners here on this speedway. Not really going to be allowing Streets to just clear him on the bottom. Still side by side, and still Feeney managing to hold on to this battle. Just barely, but still keeping it going. And right behind is actually Garrett Streets' teammate of Jeremy Morrow in that 74. So a little bit of pressure for that number 38 machine. He doesn't have to just worry about another championship contender behind him. He has to worry about that championship contender's friend and business partner. I'm not going to get into the finer details of that, but you never know what could happen out here on the speedway. Things getting spicy up here at the front of the field, though. Valtteri Brush still managing to hold a little bit of a gap over Lyons and Hess, but drifting it out of turn number 2. So all that ground he made immediately going back down the gutter. Everyone trying a little bit of a different line here, and everyone sliding up at the front too. Really loose for Andy Felterbrush up there. Lyons closing the gap in that 52 machine, though it does look like he has 25 on the side of his car. 52-25, you get the point either way. Lucas Lyons, rookie driver, making his first ever start, now contending for the lead of the race here at the Pocono Raceway. Of course, can't forget, this is Felterbrush's second ever start in the league, and he took home the win last week at the Southern National Motorsports Park. Completely different environment from where we are here at the Pocono Raceway. Of course, 2.5 miles here at Pocono, only 0.4 of a mile back at Southern National Motorsports Park last week, but Andy Felterbrush seems like he has things completely under control here in this ARCA Menard Chevrolet Impala SS, regardless of what kind of track we throw at him. And that makes me excited to see what he's able to do next season when we have that one road course again, most likely, because we are sticking with the ARCA Menards car in season number 13 of the ASRC Oval Series. Will Felterbrush be able to handle everything ARCA manages to throw at him? Of course, right behind him, that's Garrett Hess, and Hess was the previous road course winner earlier in the season at the Tsukuba circuit. So Hess could be a big contender next season, well, especially if we manage to see Hess compete full-time, because every race Hess has run so far this season has pretty much been consistent top 5 finishes. It's just a matter of him only being able to compete in about 5 of the races so far here in season number 12. Garrett Hess now going to be our new race leader as we get ready to head back across the start-finish line. Felterbrush up on the high side, but Hess is going to hang on to it. Hess will pick up a bonus point here this evening for leading at least one lap. Lions down on the low line now. Lions wants a piece of this as well. Of course, none of these three drivers are contending for the championship, but every position matters in these standings one way or another. If nothing else, just for league bragging rights. And of course, there always is preparation for season number 13 here in a couple of weeks. All of this seat time, all of this experience matters for these drivers, especially because all three of these drivers will have an opportunity to actually take on the championship next season, since they'll be able to compete full time. Lucas Lyons now our race leader, pulling away from the bottom too. He let Garrett Hess get that one singular bonus point for leading a lap, and now he is just pulling away. So that's going to be a bonus point going to Lyons as well at the end of tonight's event in that co-field number 25 or 52, whichever one you'll want to call it. Currently, fastest lap of tonight's event is a tie between Felterbrush and Hess. Both of them have a 57.15 as their fastest lap of the event. Lyons currently only a 57.28, so that's a full 0.13 seconds slower than our other top two drivers. But I'll tell you what, he is pulling away here now that he has this open air to work with. Felterbrush getting in the draft, starting to close his way back up here. Not quite enough to make the move going down into turn 3, but he is getting there slowly but surely. A little bit of a slide out of Lyons as well. Long way to go here this evening, Mr. Lyons. You might want to back it down just a little bit. You know what? I can't be talking about these driver strategies too much. Believe my best finish in the ASRC Oval Series was only a third after the entire field had a last lap incident. So I'm just going to let the professionals do their job. Maybe Lyons has his strategy down pat here. Pulling it down a little bit to the side. Is he going to be letting Felterbrush by? Not quite. For a second, it looked like he was maybe thinking about it. Felterbrush closing the distance, nearly nose to bumper there for the 44 machine, but he's going to pull it down low, try and see if he can't make the pass down on the low line, and he's got the nose up under him, side by side, heading down into turn number 3. And Hess back here pretty much just having to play the waiting game. Because with how these two are driving each other, there's not a whole lot of room for him to try and make a pass. Lyons still going to hold on to the race lead for that one particular lap completion. But of course, no extra bonus points unless you're the one driver that has led the most laps of the event. Now, I'll tell you what, the three drivers that are really wanting to be picking up bonus points right now are the three drivers back in the mid-pack. Garrett Streets, Brandon Feeney, Brian Sabelski. Sabelski starting to pull away from this battle here as Feeney gets caught in the middle of the two SM Racing Products teammates. Of course, Streets in the 15 is the one competing for the actual championship here, side by side with Mr. Brandon Feeney. Feeney slightly ahead here, but only just barely as Streets tries to make that high line work. A little bit loose for Streets off the corner, not quite able to make it happen. Big wiggle for Morrow just behind as well. Everyone's starting to get things settled out. Feeney, not a whole lot of breathing room though. Both SM Racing Products teammates hot on his trail here as they battle it out for the final spot in the top 5. Again, we're only 16 laps into tonight's event out of 60. We've got a long way to go here this evening. Nothing is set in stone, and considering the chaos we saw at the Southern National Motorsports Park last week, it's safe to say that anything can happen here. Streets right up on the bumper of that number 38. Not quite close enough to try bump drafting, and I'll tell you what, I can't really advise bump drafting here in the Renard Chevrolet. After all, almost every incident that we have seen so far this season, every caution, with the exception of self spins, has basically been from someone just even lightly tapping the rear bumper of the car in front of him is enough to lift those rear tires off the ground and send the car completely out of control. So here at Pocono Raceway, you want to get as close as you can to the car in front of you, get as much of that draft as possible, but do not touch them. If you touch them, they will spin. You will bring out a caution. There is no ifs, whens, or buts here. And Streets is managing to do just that. He's getting as close as he can to Feeney, but he's not quite making contact. Speaking of contact, though, Jeremy Morrow, hard impact to the outside wall there. That's going to cost him a lot of time. Not quite able to see any damage on the side of that 74, so it looks like no real issue there. So that is not going to be doing him any favors here this evening, especially this early into tonight's event. They're just going to manage to pull around Brandon Feeney, though. Feeney is now having to go on the offensive. Last place out of our 3 championship contenders. And of course, this is a double points race. Feeney does have a tiny little bit of breathing room over Sabelski, but Streets still has an 11-point advantage over him coming into tonight's event. Feeney has to finish better than Streets, no matter what. Sabelski, yeah, whatever, he can lose a spot or two to the 85, but he has to finish above Streets here this evening if he wants to be an ASRC Oval Series champion. A little bit battle going on at the tail end of the field. Michael Sparks side by side with Corey Logan. It looks like Sparks actually has damage on the right side of that 42 machine as well. I'm not quite sure where that came from. Our folks down in the TV truck are not saying that they've seen anyone have any incidents besides that little bit of an off track with Corey Logan right at the start of the event. I'm not quite sure what is the deal with that 42 machine, but that is some pretty substantial damage to the right front right there. And it looks like the car is handling all right enough. He's still managing to keep it in front of Corey Logan. But that is definitely not good, especially at a track like this where aerodynamics is such a huge factor. And of course, Isey is doing such a great job of holding off Corey Logan. Logan's going to get around him without too much difficulty here. Both drivers currently 20 seconds behind the race leader. It's about 57, 58 seconds a lap here, so still got most of the speedway to play with before they have to worry about being lapped. And honestly, I don't think being lapped is going to be coming into the picture here this evening. At least not on pace under green flag conditions. But sure enough, Sparks is starting to lose Logan even in the draft. Further up at the front of the field, they are still duking it out for the race lead. There is Lucas Lyons. Garrett Hess, nose to tail. Hess trying to make something work on the low line, not quite able to make it happen. The Felterbush is falling back here. Now almost a little bit over half of a second between second and third right now. And of course I say that and Felterbush immediately catches back up. But still, for such a relatively small car count on it, such a massive track, it is an incredibly close battle for the lead here. Sabelski finding himself a bit in no man's land right now in that 85 machine. 2 seconds behind the front pack, but 5 seconds in front of the midfield. All in all, things looking pretty good for Sabelski, but he needs those 2 midfield drivers behind him to get knocked down a couple of pegs. Even finishing things where they are right this moment, it would not give Sabelski enough points over Streets to actually take home the championship. Sabelski needs a good, probably, I think, 3 or 4 positions over Streets and Feeney if he wants to take home the championship here tonight. So basically, for Sabelski, it's a little bit looking like a win or nothing situation here. To quote Mr. Ricky Bobby, of course, if he ain't first, he's last. Lucas Lyons still holding on to the race lead, but Hess is going to fall back to Felterbush here. All of them still completely broken away from the rest of the field. Nothing they don't have to worry about right now. But Felterbush trying to make the pass happen down on the low line. Hess maybe potentially trying to follow through, not quite. I think the game plan for Hess here is just to stick back right in the draft, try and save a little bit of fuel, and maybe have a slight edge over these two other drivers when it comes to pit strategy. Because we've seen Hess can lead laps here at the Pocono Raceway. He has already demonstrated that he is capable of doing that, but he is not going quite as crazy when it comes to trying to make a move here as Lyons and Felterbush are doing right now. And of course, like I said, none of these three drivers are competing for the championship, and we are right about at the end of the season. After tonight's event, everyone gets a clean slate. And there's contact as Lyons goes around down into the infield. And it looks like the caution flag is not going to fly. Lyons trying to get things pointed back around here, back out onto the speedway. Still in front of Logan Murphy and Sparks. But that just went from battling for the race lead to all the way back to 8th, 15 seconds behind the race leader. Now Felterbush has a little bit of a breathing room to work with as Garrett Hess now nearly a full second behind here. That's going to be Brian Sabelski, who's actually caught up as Hess checked up for that incident. So Sabelski might just find himself, sure enough, he is in the draft with Garrett Hess, so Sabelski could potentially find himself leading tonight's event, and Sabelski, more than any of these other championship contenders, needs this win and these bonus points more than anyone else in the field. Hess and Felterbush both are not going to be making it easy for him, though. He's going to have to work his way up to the front of the field. They are not just going to let him by because he might win a championship here this evening. Let's see if we can't take a quick moment to get a replay of that incident between Felterbush and Lucas Lyons here. Down in that 25, two rookie drivers here in the league. Looks like just a little bit loose off the corner was all it took to make contact between the two of them. Let's see if we can't get a better look at everything that went down here. Oh, actually nudge with Garrett Hess. That is not what I was expecting to see. Potentially trouble is it looks like Lyons is off the speedway again. Came out of pit lane and got down into the grass, and there is the race leader right behind him in that 44 machine. Things not looking good for that rookie driver of Lucas Lyons, and Felterbush looks like he's checking up for that lap car just a little bit. And that's going to allow Garrett Hess to close it back up to 0.3 of a second between the two of them. We have a battle for the race lead yet again after Felterbush was doing so good to pull away from the rest of the field after that incident. 25 laps in the books as we cross the line. Getting ready to near the halfway point here. Things have mostly spread out up at the front, and it looks like we're going to have some drivers making the call to come down pit lane. Both of the SM Racing Products drivers down on pit lane. Garrett Street's Jeremy Morrow going to be the first drivers to stop, with the exception of Lyons, who put on new tires after that spin. Both of them going to be coming on down into their pit box. What is the call going to be for the SM Racing Products team? Looks like Garrett Streets might have actually overdriven into his pit box there. A little bit of time lost to his teammate in that 74. Will Morrow be able to get back out on the speedway before him, though, is the question. No, he will not. Street stays in front of the battle here between the two teammates. And it looks like it's going to be 4 tires for both of the SM Racing Products teammates here. Both of them coming out onto the speedway on the lead lap, but about 10 seconds to play with between themselves and our race leader of Andy Felterbush going down into turn number 1 right now. And again, starting to pull away a little bit from Garrett Hess and Brian Sabelski as they battle it out for second and third. Bit of a closer battle happening further back in the field. This is Corey Logan, Derek Murphy, and Michael Sparks duking it out. Murphy, in typical Murphy fashion, was running in the 7th position until Gardner just dove it down onto pit lane. At this rate, I'm pretty convinced that that 78 is making a point of finishing in 7th every single race on purpose. I don't have any evidence to back this up, but I'm starting to get a little bit of a hunch here. Currently managing to stay ahead of that damage number 42. Trying to see if he can't figure out a way to catch up to the 24 CZ Robotics entry of Corey Logan, but oh, wow, okay. Sparks sending it way up to the high side there, almost scraping into the outside wall, but you know what? Might as well. You already have a damaged race car. What's a little bit more damage? Why not? Quite the move by the number 42 machine, but I don't think he's got the pace needed to catch up to the CZ Robotics 24, because Corey Logan pretty comfortably is pulling away from the two of them right now. Currently looks like about 1.6 seconds and counting in front of Michael Sparks and Derek Murphy right now. But Murphy's coming back. Murphy might have the opportunity to get back around that 42 machine, both battling it out here in the midfield, battling it out for the 6th position. So here's the question. Will we see Derek Murphy go for the overtake when he gets the opportunity on Michael Sparks, or is he going to get on the brakes and keep that 78 machine in the 7th position? No, it looks like he is going to go for the overtake. Pulls it on down low. Not quite able to clear him just yet, but he is battling for 6th. Still side by side coming out of turn number 3. As we cross the line, and it looks like Sparks is still going to lead this battle. Sparks still leads the way, but he is going to lose this ground to Murphy and potentially even Streets when we see them go down to pit lane, because that damage is going to take some time to repair, and I wouldn't be surprised if his pit crew ends up saying a little bit of that damage is mandatory to be fixed. Of course, right now everything's fine and dandy for the 42, but you never knew what quite your crew chief is going to say when he actually sees the car down on pit lane. Murphy falling back just a little bit in that 78 though. Looked like he was gaining ground on that damaged machine, and as soon as he gains it, it seems to slip away once again. Last time by, looking at the lap times, 59.94 for Murphy, 1 minute 0.31 for Sparks. So let's see what it looks like when we cross the line, when we get the update. Murphy slower than Sparks by half of a second the last time by. So damage or not, Sparks is actually managing to pull away from that 78 machine. Up at the front of the field, would you believe it? It's still Andy Felterbush and Garrett Hess duking it out. The Code Red Mountain Dew entry up against the Do-It-Yourself 00. Brian Sabelski going to be making the call down to pit lane. A little bit of a different strategy here from our other championship contenders. Of course, Streets and his teammate of Jeremy Morrow both pit back on lap number 25. So Sabelski will have a little bit of an advantage when it comes to tires, but not all that much. Call it about 10 miles worth of difference. And Brandon Feeney has still not pit. And that doesn't entirely surprise me. Feeney is a driver that he pretty much runs the car until it's out of gas on these super speedways, and then puts on brand new tires right at the end of the event and sails through the field. And it looks like that's the same strategy that he's going to be going for again here tonight. Of course, Feeney took home the win back at Talladega, and then took home the win again, I want to say, at Michigan. We definitely took him to win at Michigan, that's for sure. So pretty much, Feeney is in his element right now. His 2 wins so far this season both have been at the super speedways. And of course, he has that going over Mr. Garrett Streets, running back in the 7th position. Of course, Streets has already pitted. But both of Streets' wins so far have come from short tracks, Lanier and South Boston. So Streets might be in it for a little bit of difficulty here this evening, not quite in his element. Of course, we talked to Streets last week at the Southern National Motorsports Park, and he said, don't take my wins as an indication of how my season's been going. He was saying that he still feels really good about these larger tracks as he gets a little bit loose out the corner. Don't listen to what I'm saying right now, Streets. But he said that he's feeling pretty confident about tonight's event, and he was doing pretty solid. Of course, now that pit stop has put him back in 7th, right behind Sabelski. There's still a long way for things to go here tonight, and we could potentially see that 15 machine riding it home in victory lane. Speaking of drivers named Garrett, though, the other Garrett is going to be making the call down to pit lane, and would you believe it, it's going to be 4 tires for the do-it-yourself 00 as well. Coming out of pit lane slightly slower than some of the other drivers, 14.85 down in his pit box compared to the 14.5 for Brian Sabelski, the 14.3 for Garrett Streets, and the 14.4 for Lucas Lyons when he had that spin earlier into tonight's event. That's going to be filtering Garrett Hess out in 5th, right up in front of the other Garrett. Race leader Andy Felterbush coming down pit lane in that Mountain Dew Code Red 44, so that should allow Brandon Feeney to pick up at least 1 bonus point for leading a lap here in tonight's event. Felterbush has already crossed the start-finish line, so Feeney's going to have to do another lap around the circuit before he actually claims that bonus point, but that should give Feeney a little bit to work with coming into the latter half of tonight's event. Of course, Feeney coming into the event 11 points behind Garrett Streets, 60 points to the race winner, then it was 50, 40, and so on. So 10 points per position down until 4th. Then it starts becoming 6 and then 4 points per position. So really, finishing in the top 3 here tonight is going to be a massive deal for these 3 championship drivers. And right now, Brandon Feeney running up at the front of the field. Let's see just how far this 38 is going to be able to go until he needs to make his pit stop. Corey Logan running back in 2nd in that CZ Robotics 24. They would be really happy to see Feeney pit, so they could pick up a couple of bonus points here this evening. Logan coming into tonight's event, running back 9th in the championship standings, right behind Jeremy Morrow, Mr. Garrett Street's teammate, by 1 single point. But sure enough, Corey Logan's going to go ahead and make the call down to pit lane. They are not going to wait for Feeney to do his stop. A little bit further up in the field, there's Brian Zabelski and Garrett Hess, and I'll tell you what, there might be a little bit tension here because Garrett Hess and Brian Sabelski were both involved in that incident coming to the white flag at the Southern National Motorsports Park. And I, of course, ended up with Sabelski finishing all the way back in 9th, whereas Hess still managed to roll across the line in 5th. And that looks like a little bit of a connection issue for Sabelski. That can't be good. Still looks like he's rolling it in the right direction. Alrighty, race fans, we are back in typical kart fashion. They are once again conspiring against the Pocono Raceway, but that is not going to stop us from broadcasting here this evening. Garrett Hess currently our race leader, up in front of Mr. Brian Zabelski in that number 85 machine. Looks like everyone around the field has officially made at least one pit stop here this evening, with the exception of Mr. Brandon Feeney, who just had a scrape against the outside wall in that number 38 machine. But Garrett Hess is our current race leader, followed by Zabelski and then Mr. Andy Felterbush. Streets running back in fifth, Morrow back in, no, Streets in fourth, Morrow in fifth, Gardner sixth. And right now, if the race were to end in this exact moment, Zabelski would be in a pretty decent position, having a couple of spots over Streets and Feeney. But right now, it's looking like potentially still a little bit of an advantage for Streets. I don't think Zabelski quite has enough points to get up above Streets in the championship standings right now. Pretty spread out around the field here with a 17 laps left to go. Currently the closest battle on the speedway is the battle for our race lead between Garrett Hess and Brian Zabelski, but still nearly a full second dividing these two drivers at the moment. As we cross the line, gonna be 16 to go here at the Pocono Raceway. And it looks like actually these drivers won't need to pit again, considering that some of them went as far as lap 30 without pitting. Otherwise, things fairly quiet and peaceful on the racetrack. Everyone else very spread out from each other with how these pit stops have cycled through. Currently, Brian Zabelski, though, our biggest mover right now, up 5 positions from where he qualified. And it's going to be tied between Jeremy Morrow and Jason Gardner, both up +4. Garrett Hess up +1. And everyone else in the field has lost positions. So only 4 drivers are in the green right now. Derek Murphy taking the toe to pit lane, and with that cloud of smoke, I think we might have just seen Murphy have a little bit of an oopsie entering pit lane here. Let's take a look back real quick. Did he do what I think he did? Not quite as bad as I was expecting it to be, but still not great. Derek Murphy's going to take the tow truck down to his pit box. No caution flag will fly here at the Pocono Raceway. Garrett Hess still our race leader, now 0.5 of a second between himself and Brian Zabelski, with 15 laps left to go here in Pocono. Corey Logan once again find themselves side by side with Michael Sparks. Sparks in that damaged 42 machine, still being able to remain competitive with some of these other drivers down at the tail end of the field, side by side for 9th position right now out of 11 drivers. Logan's gonna be able to clear that 42 Mountain Dew entry, but Sparks is still in this battle. One of the Mooselander drivers here in the ASRC Oval Series, but not affiliated with our other Canadian driver of Mr. Brandon Feeney, who is currently only 1 spot ahead of this battle. Feeney made his stop, but it doesn't look like it's quite working out as well as he was hoping to. If the field ends where it is all right now, Feeney will be having to kiss his championship contention vote goodbye. I think right now, more than anything, a lot of drivers outside of the top 5 right now are hoping for a caution flag to fly so they can try and make some daring moves in the final couple of laps here in tonight's event. Maybe not calculated or well thought out moves, but moves nonetheless that might gain them a couple of positions when it matters most. Further up in the field, Lucas Lyons not quite recovered from that incident earlier on in tonight's event, but he's at least moved on up to 7th from back at the tail end of the field, back in 11th. Right in front of him, that's Jason Gardner. It looks like Gardner actually has picked up a little bit of damage on that number 93 machine. Not quite as damaged as Sparks is looking, but a little bit of contact with the right front. And that is going to allow Lions and Feeney to both close in on him without too much difficulty. And we are just going to go ahead and go 3 wide here at Pocono. Why not? Might as well. Both drivers passing Gardner in a little bit of a 2-for-1 combo as they continue to battle it out. Rookie driver up against championship contender. 13 laps left to go here at the Pocono Raceway. Call it a little bit around. Let's do a little bit of math here. I think that's about 26 miles roughly left to go. Probably closer to 28 now that I think about it, but that's for the finer details. One way or another, this event is in its closing chapters, and these drivers need to get a move on if they want to be walking away with a good finish here this evening. 12 laps here to go as we cross the line. Brandon Feeney, the lowest of the 3 championship contenders. Sabelski, of course, up in 2nd. Streets down in 4th. Feeney running out back in 6th. Gardner back in 8th, in 4th in championship standings, but of course Gardner is too far outside of the bubble to be able to take home the championship. Even if he won this race and the whole rest of the field finished back in last, Gardner would not have enough points to be able to take home the championship. Currently sitting 70 points behind Sabelski, which makes him 104 points behind Garrett Streets, and of course the most points he can earn here in these double points races is 60. Morrow looking to, or Feeney, excuse me, trying to make a move on Morrow. Of course, the other half of the SM Racing Products team, both drivers out of Topeka, Kansas, going up against the driver out of Canada. And while there is a 10-second gap, Feeney now once again finds himself stuck in between the 2 SM Racing Products teammates. 11 laps currently left to go here on the speedway. Garrett Hess continues to lead by a little bit under a second in the do-it-yourself 00. Not racing for a championship, but he could be the only driver that actually manages to take home 3 wins here in this season. Coming off of turn number 3, big double high five up in the air from Barney the Flagman. 10 laps left to go here at the Pocono Raceway. 10 more times around this 2.5 mile circuit. And that one means we're 25 miles left to go. That's some mental math I can do, race fans. Sabelski closing the gap just a little bit, but is it going to be enough is the big question. 0.6 seconds back. Slowly gaining. He is close enough to start getting into the draft. Roughly, these cars lose the draft at about 0.8. So as long as Sabelski can stay within that, he should be good to go. And of course, Felterbush just behind. Not quite in the draft himself, so Felterbush might be out of the equation here. But for the time being, it still is Hess and Sabelski, and Sabelski still is starting to close that gap. Now it's got down to 0.5. And of course, the closer he gets to that 00 machine, the stronger the effect is going to be. Now I'll call it nearly 0.4, but a little bit of time lost going down into turn number 1 here. But coming off the corner, immediately starts making that back up, getting down into the 0.4 territory. Sabelski is still very much in this battle for the race lead. Just has to get a good clean lap in, and he should be up alongside that 00. And he's not going to do it. He's going to hit hard into the outside wall. Damage to the right front for the 85 of Sabelski, and there's Felterbush coming up high trying to capitalize on that mistake. Both of these drivers are out of the draft for the race leader now. Both of them pretty much don't have much of a choice but to work together here if they want to get back up to the front of the field. And I'll tell you what, Felterbush is not waiting for the opportunity to do that. He's just going to immediately pull it on down low and try and clear that number 85 of Sabelski. Both over a second behind the race leader now. That was the lucky break that Garrett Hess needed to get some breathing room here. And it's going to be really hard for these two drivers to make that deficit back up. Cebulski, of course, in the draft from Felterbusch, closing that gap between the two of them. Felterbusch now doing the same thing that Cebulski did, scraping the corner on corner exit. That's going to allow Cebulski to get a little bit of room back up here in this battle, but both of them are still losing on Garrett Hess. Hess is now pulled away to a 1.3, nearly 1.4 second lead here with 7 laps left to go here at the Pocono Raceway. It's going to be coming down to the wire here one way or another. A little bit further back in the field, it's now going to be Jeremy Morrow and Lucas Lyons battling it out. Lyons, of course, that rookie driver making his first ever start here in the ASRC Oval Series in that 25 co-field entry. Also rocking the SM Racing banner on the hood of that Chevrolet machine. I haven't been able to talk to any of these drivers, so I'm not entirely sure what the connection is between Lyons, Morrow, and Streets, other than the fact that they all have matching sponsors here. Of course, Morrow and Streets both run the company, but I don't know if Lyons is actually affiliated with them or not. But either way, Lyons had a little bit of trouble earlier on in tonight's event, but otherwise has made a very solid debut for his first ever race here in the league. Really battling it out for the 5th position. Despite the trouble, Lyons could be walking away with a top 5 here tonight. Tries to pull it on down the low, see what he can do down on the low line underneath that 74 of Jeremy Morrow, and he is going to get the advantage coming through turn number 3. And down the front stretch, Lyons will be taking home the 5th position. And of course, still 6 more laps around the circuit to go. And eventually, we will be crowning someone as the ASRC Oval Series champion. Cebulski has fallen back by nearly 2 seconds from Felterbusch, though, and Felterbusch another 1.5 seconds behind Hess. That damage looks like it's having a major impact on the 85 machine, and of course, 1 position between Cebulski and Streets is not going to be enough. Right now, in this very moment, it looks like Streets is going to be taking home the championship. He had the lead of the championship coming into tonight's event. Feeney is 3 positions behind, so Feeney's not going to be able to close the gap. And of course, Cebulski came into tonight's event 30 points behind Streets, so 1 position ain't going to be enough. Especially as Feeney loses another spot to Jason Gardner there. Things are looking really good for Garrett Streets. More than anyone else on this speedway, Garrett Streets right now is hoping and praying the caution flag does not fly here tonight. Further back in the field, battling it out is Jason Gardner and Brandon Feeney. Right now, it's looking like Feeney's championship hopes are a little bit dashed here, but still an amazing run for the driver of that number 38 machine. Of course, still 5 laps to go. We could see all sorts of chaos break loose, and it looks like Hess has crossed the line, so going to be 4 to go here at the Pocono Raceway. Fate is not yet decided here, race fans. Unless a caution comes out, things are not looking good for the driver of the Liqui-Moly 38. Of course, Feeney, one of our real-life drivers here in the ASRC Oval Series, never been on a track quite like Pocono Raceway in the real world. Runs at a short track up in Canada. And of course, paint scheme on his virtual car matching that of his real-life car. Currently running back in the 8th position, worst runner of our 3 championship contenders right now. As we come out of turn number 3, Garrett Hess is still going to be holding on to this lead by more than a second. Take him out to ride on board with Mr. Andy Felterbusch here. See what he is seeing out here on the speedway. And of course, 1 second doesn't sound like a lot, but when you actually take the time to ride on board with these drivers, you can see just how much of a gap that is. Felterbusch going all the way down to the apron here, trying to get as much of a run off the corner as he can. He is just not getting the ground he needs to catch up to our race leader here. 3 laps left to go. here at Pocono. And 1.2 seconds dividing our top two drivers. Sabelski has now fallen back 5 seconds here. It looks like things might just be done and dusted as Hess crosses the line. Going to be 2 to go here at the Pocono Raceway. Of course, we do have the opportunity for a little bit of NASCAR-style overtime. If the caution flag were to fly right now, in this exact very moment, we would go into overtime. But as long as Hess manages to complete this lap and get the white flag, we will stay green to the end. But I'll tell you what a season it has been so far, race fans. And right now, Garrett Hess only has about 3 miles left to go to be the only driver to take home 3 wins so far this season. So championship or not, he will be taking home a bit of a title here to his name. And it actually looks like there is a little bit of lap traffic up ahead of him. Both Corey Logan and Michael Sparks are within eyesight of our race leader. I don't think they're close enough to have any sort of actual effect on him. And of course, 2 laps left to go. Coming out of turn number 3, everything is fine and dandy. White flag is up in the air. We will be green flag racing until we take the checkered flag, no matter what here. And I'll tell you what, Andy Felterbrush has apparently found the go fast button in his car, because he has closed the gap from 1.2 seconds to 0.6 seconds over the course of about a single straightaway. It's not quite done and dusted for Garrett Hess. He still has to hang on to the lead, but I don't think Felterbush is quite able to close the gap. 0.6 seconds dividing these 2 drivers, and he's closing the gap just a little bit. He seems to be making the time back through the corners, but just isn't quite gaining it on the straightaways. Going down to turn 3 for the final time here at Pocono. Down to 0.4 of a second. He is absolutely sending it in. But it's going to be Garrett Hess that takes home the win here tonight. Garrett Hess, 3-time winner here this season in the ASRC Oval Series, despite being a part-time competitor. But it's going to be Garrett Streets in the number 15 SM Racing Products machine that takes home the championship here in the ASRC Oval Series. What an event it has been here tonight, crowning a champion for the 12th time here in the ASRC Oval Series, signing off year number 3 of competition on a high note. And soon, in just a couple of weeks, will be the beginning of year 4 of Oval Series competition. We'll give Mr. Garrett Hess just a moment, see if we're going to get any sort of celebration out of him. Of course, the speedway is so long, takes him a little while to actually get around the track. But we might just see a little bit of a burnout for the fans here this evening for the driver of the 00 do-it-yourself entry. Ran to a stop down at the start-finish line, and he's thinking about it. He's thinking about it. He's revving it up. He's still thinking about it. He's thinking really hard about it right now, race fans. All right, maybe no burnout out of Mr. Garrett Hess, but he is going to be taking home the win here tonight. Don't go anywhere, race fans. We'll be back here. Oh, nope, now he's revving it up. Or is he not? There we go. Now he's doing it. Had to think real long and hard about that one. But Garrett Hess is going to be your race winner here at the Pocono Raceway. Now, going over race fans, we will be back here in just a moment with some interviews with your top 3 finishers. And we might just pull our other championship contenders up here into the booth to talk to as well. It looks like a couple other drivers have pulled on down to the infield to celebrate along with them. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back to the Pocono Raceway and welcome back to the ASRC Oval Series presented by SM Racing Products. Season 12 is now officially in the books. A champion has been crowned. But how about we take a moment to talk to our race winner here tonight, who won in fairly dominant fashion, Mr. Garrett Hess. Now the only driver with 3 wins to your name here this evening. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling pretty good. Brian, Mike, and Lucas put up a hell of a fight. I couldn't ask for better racing between them. I really didn't want to punt Lucas accidentally, but we all got stacked up. It happens. Pocono's a track that's really tough, and the car got really tight near the end as the tires wore off. So it went from really loose to really tight, so trying to adjust for that was just a pain in the butt. But we but we came home with the win, and it's like I didn't know I was gonna have the most in the season, but that's good to know.
Yeah, definitely makes you look good heading on into season number 13, kicking off year 4 of competition in the Oval Series next season. Is there any chance we'll be able to see you come out full time next season?
Uh, Probably, since I have decent internet connection now, and everyone here is a fun group to race with. Super clean. Um, even if I'm not the cleanest sometimes, but very very nice, very supportive people. So I'll definitely mark this on my calendar to at least try to show up to every race.
Well, of course, next season we are sticking with the Arca Menards car, so it sounds like you have the potential to be a very dominant force in next season's championship. But of course, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we gotta let you celebrate your win here tonight. Who do you want to thank for making everything happen?
Well, I want to thank Mike, Brian, and Lucas for making such a good race. It was really fun to try and get past them at this track. I want to thank Team Watson Racing, those group of guys over there, always make me happy. My brother Christian. Let's see who else. The St. Mary's County Public School System, and I want to thank my friend Zeke for always making me happy and always putting on some fun stuff when there's nothing to do.
Good deal. Well, congratulations on the win here tonight. And we look forward to seeing you in season number 13.
Yeah, man. See you around.
Finishing back position number 2 might have the most laps led. I'm not 100% sure. I don't know the math on that one quite much, but still another driver that had a heck of a race here this evening. Mr. Mike Young, or as affectionately known on our broadcast graphics, Andy Felterbush. You made it happen here tonight. How are you feeling?
Oh, sweaty. Oh, it's a lot of work out there. Racing with all these guys.
I mean, it certainly seemed like it, especially for our double points races. Not often we had the opportunity to race for a full hour like that, but you managed to make it work. What do you think might have had to have gone different here tonight for you to be taking home your second checkered flag?
Managing tires. Tires was a big, big thing in the race. Whoever managed the best won, so.
Fair enough. I mean, we're about to have a completely clean slate here in a couple of weeks for all these drivers, but showing up as a rookie, taking home a win and a second place finish is making you look really good heading into next season.
Oh, thank you.
And I guess the question has to go out as well. The same thing that we asked Mr. Garrett Hess. Will we see you be competing next season?
Yep, I'll be back and competing, and so will my buddy Jay. So we'll make sure to change our names properly on
Good
the
deal.
broadcast for you.
Well, I mean, we've seen a lot of drivers show up halfway through the season and put on some really dominant runs at some of these tracks. So I'll tell you what, next season's championship might be quite the spicy endeavor. But for now, the microphone's all yours, Mr. Young. Who do you want to thank for making things happen here tonight?
I want to thank Brian, Garrett, and Lucas. They put up a hell of a race. Very fun. It's sad that Lucas got loose there. I want to thank Jay. I want to thank you guys, iRacing, everybody that's putting on this broadcast. It's a fun group, and I can't wait to continue on racing.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on your second podium finish back to back here tonight. And I look forward to seeing you in season 13.
Awesome. Thank you.
And finishing back in position number 3, Mr. Brian Sabelski. A heck of a run here tonight, but just a little bit shy of your 5th title here this evening. How are you feeling tonight?
It's a little sad. I mean, I had to go for the win. Like that was the only way I could have got past Garrett with the where he was at. Points wise, like I had to win. That's basically all I could do. Even if I had a clean race and led the lap, at that point, the only way I could have gotten past him would have, even if I finished second, it would have tied. He probably would have had me on tiebreaker. I think he's had better finish. She's had more consistent finishes than I have. So, yeah, it's one of those things. Bummer. I had to go for the win, and I don't know. The car just gave out on me on one lap, and that was all it took. And that's all it takes around Pocono. So I can't be too mad about third. It's one of those things where it's like season wise, what could have been. I just had so much trouble. A lot of it not my fault, just unfortunate things that happened, and you can pick. If I don't get spun at Phoenix, I don't get spun last week, I don't disconnect at Tsukuba, could have been very, very different going into this race and at the end of this race. So it's one of those things. Maybe I'm the uncrowned champion for this season that I should have won, but hey, it happens. It is what it is. And that's all. Garrett gave me, both Garretts gave me a heck of a run all season. Mike showing up late in the season, he's been very quick and consistent. So like, I don't mind finishing second or third if it's a strong second or third, if it's competitive. And it's been competitive. There's been, gosh, how many different winners have we had this season? We've had so many different winners. This has probably been first time in a really long time that we've had so many different people actually like winning races or running up front. And it's just, it's good to see. It's good to see for the health of the league that people can do this. And it's not just Garrett Streets running away with everything or me running away with everything. That's only fun for one person. we want it to be fun for everybody.
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, still a really strong finish. And next season, we got a clean slate for everyone, and we're still in the same car. So you still have an opportunity to make it happen in the ARCA car next season.
Well, probably not. I unfortunately have some other things that looks like coming up on Monday nights, and I'll probably be moving down to part time for a season or two here. While those things sort themselves out, unless something changes with my schedule stuff, it's entirely possible. I don't know how it's all going to shake out yet, but I will be here as often as possible to race, and it is not a permanent thing. It's only, I think, through, at the latest it's through September. So I'll probably miss like the next season or two running full time, but I'll be here as much as I can. And yeah, you're not, even if I'm got other things to do on Monday nights now, maybe y'all aren't getting rid of me that easy. So I'll be here as much as possible.
Good deal. Well, of course, we always look forward to seeing you out on the speedway, but obligations are obligations. One heck
Yep.
of a season so far here in season number 12. Who do you want to thank for making everything come together this season?
Thanks to Jason for doing all the hard work hosting. Maybe I should have a quick chat with him if I'm not going to be at all these races. Maybe he could use a second set of eyes post race. We'll see. I could probably find a little bit of time to help review some stuff. I've done it for other leagues, so like I said, you're not done with me yet. Y'all are not done with me yet. I'm not, even if I'm not in the car every week, I'm not going away. But of course, Makoni set up shop. Thanks so much to them. Official set up shop at NASCAR. Really good to have them around. SM Racing, obviously, for sponsoring it, and Garrett and Jeremy put out a really quality product. It's one of those things. It's like, yeah, I'm racing sponsors, so I try not to I try not to wreck them. I kept joking people. I was like, I owe Garrett one. I owe Garrett one, and I'm like, I'm not gonna move the guy. Maybe I would have moved him if it was for the championship, but I don't think I would have done it for anything else. It was, that's not how I roll. But obviously, thanks to the folks at Take This who have been working with for 6 years. Aiden, thank you so much for doing all the broadcasting work. None of this is out there if it's not for you, buddy. I appreciate you, everything that you do, even if you get busy once in a while and you have to do a race post race, you have to do a broadcast post race. Thank my girlfriend for putting up with me every Monday night doing this stuff. So, and my cat, who is always around to comfort and beg for food.
Good deal. Well, congratulations on a pretty solid season 12, and we look forward to seeing you as much as we're able to in season number 13.
Yep, thank you. I'll look forward to being here as much as possible.
And pretty conveniently finishing back in position number 4 here, Mr. Garrett Streets. I don't have the math on this 100%, but it's pretty much confirmed you are the championship of ASRC Oval Series season number 12. How are you feeling here tonight?
I feel really good. I have thought about the moment and hoped for the moment that I could win one of these since I started running with ASRC a couple of years ago. And there were a lot of fast guys back then and a lot of people that I enjoyed racing with, and kind of hoped that someday I'd be as fast as them. And here we are. We managed to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, you managed to put together a really solid season, and you said it yourself. Don't let your wins be the defining moment of your season, with them all being at short tracks. Because evidently you can put together some really solid runs at these bigger speedways too.
Yeah, I felt pretty good after practice. Just kind of needed to manage keeping tires on it. We chose a strategy that we felt like would protect us from the late race caution in case it came out. And luckily we didn't have one, and we were able to manage the tire wear and have enough speed going through the rest of the race.
I guess the big question then is, was there any, well, I guess more is, was there any point in tonight's event where you knew you would be the champion, or was that nagging doubt just always in your mind here tonight?
I think once Brian started burning up the right front, I think he was going to go down to pit road or whatever his incident was, and he ended up missing it. And I think that was kind of my biggest concern. I felt like I could more than likely hold Feeney off. He started catching me for a little bit and managed to be the next car behind me. But I was worried about Brian winning the race, and I was concerned that would give him enough points to get me in the championship. I wasn't going to be able to compete with the top three. But yeah, just between Brian's incident there and then I think Feeney got the wall, it felt pretty good from 5 to go or so.
Well, one heck of a season for you, Mr. Streets. One heck of a race here tonight. Who do you want to thank for finally putting everything together into a championship for you?
I want to thank you for broadcasting. It's awesome going back and watching the races every night and letting people cheer us on and be able to watch our races. I want to thank all the guys at ASRC that run everything. Jason for setting up the races. I think Johnny does the points. All the race admins. Want to thank Brian and Brandon for being great competitors this season. Had a lot of great battles, including tonight with Brandon and I. Want to send a shout out to my girlfriend Morgan for watching. She's cheered me on every week when these races are happening. And then I want to thank Jeremy for all the work that he does for SM Racing Products.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out. Congratulations on finally being the Season 12 champion here in ASRC. And of course, we all look forward to seeing you in season number 13.
Yeah, looking forward to it. It'll be a lot of fun. There's a lot of fast guys that I think are going to run full time. So we'll see if we can defend it, but it's going to be a challenge.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out and congratulations.
Yep. Thank you, Aiden. Have a good one.
And of course, you heard it here first, folks, race fans. Your top three finishers here tonight and your league champion. First ever championship to his name here for season number 12, Mr. Garrett Streets. Of course, one half of the SM Racing Products team who oh so generously sponsor the ASRC Oval Series. What a season these drivers have managed to put together. But for now, how about we take a look down at our finishing results for the final time here in season number 12. Garrett Hess will be taking home win number 3 here this season, making him the most winning driver of season number 12. Of course, we had 6 different winners so far this season, a pretty stark contrast to the last couple of seasons where we saw times where only Tyler McRae or only Mike Sukup won races. So quite the diverse field of drivers here in season number 12. And of course, we've heard a lot of drivers showing up about halfway, sometimes even 3/4 of the way through the season, putting on really solid runs and saying that they're interested in competing in season number 13. So y'all want to stick around for that one? It is going to be one heck of a show for 2024 season 1. Going through the field, though, Garrett Hess taking home the win here tonight in the 00 do-it-yourself entry, followed by Andy Felterbrush in the 44 Code Red Mountain Dew entry. Brian Sabelski, 4-time champion, coming up a little bit short in the points here tonight, but he will still be walking away with a podium in the Nihon Tiger 85. Garrett Streets bring it home in 4th in the SM Racing Products 15 machine, which will be enough to give him the championship, followed by rookie driver Lucas Lyons. Led laps here tonight, had a little bit of an incident early on in the race, still managed to walk away with a top 5 in his first ever league start. 6th place going to go back to the other half of the SM Racing Products team. That's going to be the 74 of Jeremy Morrow rounding out the 6th position, followed by league admin Mr. Jason Gardner in the 93, bringing it home position number 7. 8th place going to be coming back to Brandon Feeney in the Liquimolly 38. And honestly, I'm not 100% sure on where the points are between Feeney and Sabelski as to who is actually the runner-up in the point standings. We pretty much guarantee that Streets is the championship. but it's pretty close between Feeney and Sabelski on who brought it home second. Ninth place going to go back to the CZ Robotics 24 of Corey Logan, followed by the Mountain Dew Mooselander Racing 42 of Michael Sparks, with Derek Murphy in the 78 rounding out the tail end of the field here this evening. What a season it has been, race fans, and what a way to cap it off at the Pocono Raceway. Thank you all for tuning in, both tonight and for the entirety of season number 12. The league and myself included appreciate all of the support you all give us. We wouldn't be possible without y'all. And I'll tell you what, race fans, going to be taking a week off for a little bit of a break, and then season number 13 should be kicking off the week after that. The schedule is a little bit iffy because, of course, Christmas falls on a Monday, and we will not be holding competition on Christmas Day. So keep your ear out for what the schedule is going to look like for season number 13 of ASRC Oval Series competition. But for now, thank you all so much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing y'all in 2024. Have a good evening, race fans.